7:04, we'll call the meeting to order, and take a look at the agenda, please. If somebody has something they'd like to amend, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Target half a mile away.
Second.
All those in favor? Okay. We have minutes from the December 3rd meeting that we received at the last meeting that we finally get taken a look at. I have one amendment to that. I just have a copy that I handed out last time.
December 2nd?
December 3rd.
Third, yes.
Okay, under old business B3, the sentence after that, which is Mr. Dowell proposed that indoor gun range be included. I believe that was Mr. Higgins who made that proposal.
Was it?
Yes.
My apologies. Where were you again?
First page, old business B3 is the
Just
sentence.
above number 5.
Yeah.
That would be easier to say, wouldn't it? Just above number 5. Says Mr. Dowell proposes indoor gun range be included, and it was Mr. Hayes.
Okay. Thank you.
And the other thing, I just had a question about, the first paragraph on the second side of the page refers to the current uses of 111. It says, currently are non-residential use, including agriculture, retail, manufacturing, financial services, and offices. I wasn't sure about the offices. I'm not sure what you were referring to.
Here's your sheet.
In terms of current use. I mean, they might be allowed,
Yeah.
but they're not there now.
No, they're permitted.
Okay, what I thought.
We do have some offices in the district, though. But they're really small offices. Sean Distance got an office.
But he's not in that section that we were discussing.
Okay, I thought we were talking about the whole section.
From the power lines to the line in town market.
All right.
So,
No, we don't. Well, we have bank.
a lot of the financial services piece.
Right.
I mean, it's not a huge deal. I
Okay,
was
so strike off.
hard pressed to come up with where the offices were.
Oh, I know. It's the construction trailer over at Cape. That's what it
Nice try.
is. We'll strike off.
Like for a tow truck?
Is it the, are you talking about what's existing here today?
Yes.
Is it, what's the doctor that's never there?
He's on the other side of the power line.
Outside the power line. I didn't see him there.
This one went from the power lines to the line and log.
Yeah.
Again, not a huge deal, but for purposes of tricky. Anyone else? Excuse
Do you
me?
have any additional copies of the minutes?
No.
For the December 3rd?
Yes.
Are there extra?
Ted gave us that last meeting.
I never got a copy last meeting, so I never got the email, so thank you.
Okay.
Well, I'm not surprised you didn't get the email. Nobody's getting emails.
Does anyone else have any corrections, additions? If not, I would entertain a motion to accept the minutes as amended.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Reasonably popular?
I'm gonna abstain, I haven't read them yet, so I'll get a copy from the town office, thank you.
And prior to starting the meeting, Tad gave us the January 7th minutes, so that was the last meeting. I don't know if everybody's had enough chance to read them, feel comfortable with them.
Are there additional copies of that?
You're just not prepped at all. You just, I mean, good Lord.
I didn't get
Thank you.
you. Yeah.
Thank you. I didn't get this email.
Hey,
They were given out at the beginning.
can I go back a little
Yes, sir.
bit?
Who's looking for minutes?
The motion that you were just asking to approve was at the December 3rd?
Yes.
Oh, I can't make a motion because I wasn't here.
September. Oh,
I thought you were talking about the latest ones. but I
Okay.
was not. here at the December 3rd meeting.
All right, and we need to redo that vote. Do I have a motion to approve the December 3rd meetings from someone who was in attendance?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, there we go. Not second. All those in favor? All right. Now, the January 7th. Can I help you?
I know people probably haven't had a chance, but second page, back side of the first page, first full paragraph, says Ms. Hindering. I'd like to have that changed to Mrs.
I'm sure that was a typo. But thank you.
Why do we recognize it? He's in the.
Yeah, we have two different people. We have a Ms. Kindred,
Yes.
and a Mrs. Kindred.
Well, that was before she.
I hear Mrs. Hindering is a sweetheart.
The other one.
Mrs.
The other one. Yeah, it's gonna be a long evening, folks. Make a sentence. Do we feel sufficiently comfortable with these minutes to vote on them this evening, or would you like the opportunity to go over them and hand over at the next meeting?
Well, we'll just take a couple of minutes, but that way everybody will have them and get it all over.
Fine.
Well, everybody actually has.
Why won't everybody, so I'll make a motion, accept.
In the fourth paragraph, under the letter A, point 4, it should, the second sentence towards the end should say projected flat economic growth in the Sanford area.
That works for me.
Okay, say again.
He further stated that Sanford's future growth, I think
I
they're
need a
saying
paragraph.
Sanford's projected.
No.
No, different one?
Second one up from the
Second.
bottom.
Second paragraph from the bottom,
Second line,
second line.
Charles Colvin projected
Yeah.
flat economic growth in the Sanford area.
Oh.
You have flat growth, or is that become non-growth?
You believe
That's
it.
a fancy USM economic term, I think.
That's really, the glass half full of no growth.
How about something like growth would be stagnant?
It's trying to be positive. Actually,
You were never positive towards Sanford in your life.
Actually, the truth is Colgan showed negative growth in Sanford.
Oh, well.
On the third paragraph, where Mr. Cloutier, you have Route 11, it should be Route 111.
Last
Last
sentence.
sentence.
The second time it's in the paragraph.
Yeah.
Yeah, second time.
How about content, guys?
Same issue
At
on,
the very top of the second page, Route 1.
Yeah.
Perhaps the easy way out is just refer to it as the Alfred Road from now on.
I'm good with that.
and then number 5. Second paragraph, where it says Mr. Redway stated that a visual, look at the third line down, Route 1, space 11 corridor. What?
We're making like a whole bunch of new names for it.
Really? This is.
The past participle that you used in.
It's dangling.
Stay late and you got a period.
I'm going to submit my resignation.
That may not work.
Yeah,
for
just-
us.
The top of the.
We got a lot of OP going on.
I think
The
Sim's
top
gonna.
of the very first second page, when you're talking about agribusiness, manufacturing, is it supposed to be the rural farmland along Route 111 or Route 1?
We've already hit that one.
Oh, you have, okay.
Yep.
111.
Yeah, we've already nailed that
You
one.
were just on the road list.
I'm still, yeah, I'm still reading, so.
Make a motion we accept as amended.
Second that.
All those in favor? If we find anything else later, we'll get back.
Yeah, I'll file it with Sid tomorrow.
Okay.
Just don't send us the planning board minutes till we get.
Look, I just got them out. I had a half an hour. I said, I'm gonna pass this out. Sid knows when I started this afternoon. or even what.
After I left, that's why I get a chance to read them.
So I banged it out and said, we gotta have something to talk about.
Okay, old business, discussion of photo preference survey. I have to turn that over to Tad because he either has the pictures or he doesn't have the pictures or we don't discuss the pictures.
Well, I have photos from 3 participants thus far. Dan, John, and Donna. And some have even amended their photographs since then. But,
Is there, Mr. Dallin, thank you, sir.
but wait, 4. Tom. Black and white. Oh, wow. Yankee Magazine. Cool. Okay, so this is Tom. He didn't prioritize them. Dot's got hers
Those are in priority order.
They were?
I watched them do it.
in priority order.
They have been prioritized and they're in order of importance. I stood right next to them when they were passed.
Would you like to prioritize?
Yeah, absolutely.
You just put it on. You can actually put it right next to it.
Yep, I'm gonna do, yep.
I just went from high density to low density.
Okay.
Rural, you know, you can have rural in a high density area, and you can have rural in a
I
low
know,
density.
but it's sort of like a preference thing. Which one do I prefer?
I don't know.
High density or low density? It's a high density. Thank you. Okay, 1. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right.
And as mentioned before the meeting, mine are still on my phone.
5.5.
5.5. Okay.
Hey, at least got the pictures taken.
This is sort of like a test, and actually we might use some of this stuff, but it's sort of like we're going to check out and see how this works. Because we're all going to take these and we're going to preference them. And see if there's any repeats or duplicates of some sort. And then we're going to just go through and prefer them, pick out your 7 favorites. Probably everybody will pick out their 7 favorites. But we'll see. We'll see. And in priority.
And the process for doing that is you're going to print out copies,
Yes.
and then at some point we'll spread them all out on the
Yeah.
table.
Basically, they'll be in the fields from,
Okay,
okay.
all right.
So,
I wasn't quite
if it
clear
gets
on-
too unwieldy, if there's too many, I mean, I think we've got a good group now. That doesn't leave you off the hook, though, guys. But you'll want to see how this works, and it actually can be very interesting. See? We're doing about each other. Okay, so as soon as I can get those, I'll get that all squared away. I'd like to get that squared away by the next meeting. Yeah, that's actually how they're usually done. So that's terrific. What I'll do is I'll probably have to do it on a paper form and give it out to everybody. Unless you want to do it digitally, right? I haven't got it really good. You really need to hold them and go,
Do
you
a
have to do
physical
that.
sort.
It actually makes a huge difference to do the physical sort. It really does. You get better results and people feel more confident about the results. So, as soon as I can get a good representative, get it as much as I can from this group, then we'll go and do it that. So please, do me a favor, get it to me in the next few days. If not, spend the weekend. I know it's snow cover isn't the best of all times. I'd rather do this during the summer, but we don't have till the summer to do this project. So. Okay?
That it?
That's it. Short and sweet. Anybody have any questions? Okay.
All right, moving on. As many of you know, we had a rather sparse turnout for the joint meeting of the planning board on January 23rd with the landowners from the DB1, DB2, aka M1, M2 districts. We had 2 actual landowners and an abutter out of a field of 34 potential landowners. The planning board hasn't met since, but Tad, do you have any feel for how they're going to approach, let me back up a second. One of the things that was discussed at the end of that meeting was that the representation from the landowners was so poor that it probably behooved us to do something else to drag the rest of them kicking and screaming in to talk to us at some point. So there was some discussion as to, strategies for getting that to occur. So now that I have said that, do you have any inclination as to
How to do it?
yeah, how you're going to proceed?
Barbecue. Not kidding. Food works every time. Beer, even better. But there are problems with that. Unless Bentley was around.
That's right.
But otherwise, yeah, food. I haven't discussed it with the planning board. I have heard from two other landowners since, who have, one couldn't make it, one's in Florida. And I had heard from another landowner who wasn't really in the district, but wanted to be. And of course, then we had somebody who drove all the way from Winthrop. Was it
Yeah.
Winthrop or Winthrop?
Winthrop,
I think it was Winthrop.
Yeah.
They came, and they're very interested in being in the district. But key people, and actually most of the landowners did not. I talked to the Stricklands, and I mentioned them because they were they're one of the key border property owners, and they have, for the planning board members, they have a key to getting into that property because they have a private way into there. Dan, you remember that, that property there. There's encumbrances on that, but it's a very key thing to, it's a very vital corridor that they control. And I heard from one of them that it's very interesting. So that was a good thing. Strickland's being off of Limerick Road, Strickland Road or Strickland Lane, thank you, is on the right-hand side of Limerick Road, or the east side as you're going towards the town hall from Route 1, from Portland Road. And it's just on the edge of the field of a large farm that's on that right side. That's a white federal Georgian style. Large fields in the back, wetland. They own a property that basically is the tree line, all the way around. And so that's a vital way of getting into the back there, through over to Sam's Road and even into Cynthia Hopkins Lane, which is that critical corner piece at the corner of Campground Road and Portland Road, so behind the Arundel Gas. So they were in favor. That was one good thing, but you didn't get to hear that because they couldn't come to the meeting.
Right, and you said you heard from two landowners, who was the other one?
Dick Fritz called, and he's very interested to find out what's going on. Because he's actually, his property, he's got half of his property in the potential new district. And he's got a property right next to Velma. So Velma's landlocked, Dick can come through his land, or anybody can come through. Both those parcels that front, and the big parcel that fronts on Campground.
Yes, but his son-in-law that's even a little bit further back.
That's on a different, it's on another piece.
Yeah.
That's still in the R1 district. This is conversion from R1 to what would be DB1, or DB2, excuse me, DB2. So it's big advantage.
So what did they expect of it?
He's reserved comment for the moment.
Does
He wants
it-
me, I have to send him the map. He's going to reserve comment until I send him the map. And I produce maps pretty much for all the quadrants. It covers just about every property.
Does his land abut the seasonal cottages?
Yes.
Okay, that's what my memory was.
His main body of his land that fronts down to the road abuts the seasonal cottages. And then he has another, it actually connects to another large parcel by a small isthmus of land. That is, and it's the second parcel that's, for all intents and purposes, pretty landlocked. Is the one that they're looking at reconverting it, because quite frankly, for residential, it's a nightmare.
Yeah.
But if you use it for business and come in from the campground roadside, it's a vital piece. It's a vital piece of land. So some of these decisions are being made on the development potential of the land and the undevelopment potential of it in its current configuration.
Not knowing the names of these landowners or necessarily what they're talking about would be really helpful if we could have maps or something about this information.
Well, why don't I put them up?
Well, no, you had small copies of them at the last meeting and.
Yeah, but that was for
most of them
squadrons, that wasn't for the whole smash. I've got the one that I had up that was for the whole smash, for the whole district. If you want me to put that up, I'd be
But
happy.
if we're
Yes,
just gonna
that-
keep
that would be
discussing this, it
helpful
would
for
be
tonight,
helpful
yes.
to at least be able to
Okay.
see something visual.
And if
since
you
I
put them
don't
in
know
pieces on
necessarily.
legal that you can send us electronically, I'd like to see it.
Ted, is Dick's property, his property is not, is it in the BI?
One of the part, no, it's in the R1. Part of it's in the BI, and this parcel's in the R1. Yeah, you can see it. I need an electronic microscope to see this map. Oh, that's useless. You can't do that. It's, yeah.
That's all I got?
It's right in here. It's one of those parcels.
Yeah.
That's Velma's, and that's his, and then the other parcels will be
Ted, can I make a suggestion? Put
Yes,
those maps on those doors, since we're all kind of facing that way.
there. Terrific.
Behind it.
Excuse me?
Not all of us, a majority, how's that? I've been amended.
And here's the district. Well, we're gonna buy a lot of phone cord tomorrow, boss. That's $50 for this.
I'll give you
I
two.
thought it wasn't gonna fit in your truck.
Huh?
I thought it wasn't going to fit in your car if we pulled
It
it.
won't fit in my car. But it'll fit in your truck, so you can come to every meeting with it in the back of your truck.
Let's make it out of a sheet of plywood.
What about getting those trifold things the kids use for science fairs?
Oh,
They work great.
yeah, the trifold phone cord, Tad.
What?
You get the cardboard ones at Staples, they're like $5.
Yeah, trifold.
We're not using cardboard, we're using phone cord.
But we can get trifold phone cord.
Well, you take phone cord and you score it up the
Score it.
back.
They sell them, like I use them at the election. It's,
Yeah, like that, Tim.
It folds.
Those boards that you have. Maybe we could repurpose them.
I like that.
I do.
So you don't wanna buy new, huh? I've got a whole can of 77. Ready to go. I've had it for like 15 years. It's still not complete. It's great stuff. Nothing ever moves from that. We don't need the aerial, do we, folks? No, 'cause
No, I
you
can't see it anyway.
But it does have everybody's name on it, so that was good. Anybody wanted to look at it. It does show names. But to go over this very quickly, this district, it has names here too. Imagine that. This is Campground, Log Cabin, Portland Road. Here's the river right down here, the blue stuff. Limerick Road. When the planning board was looking at, in fact, there's some, I'll just do something like that. But when the planning board was looking at connectivity issues, especially in this back area here, as you can see, this back area here, we've got landlocked pieces or pieces that are fragmented from other residential areas. We have residential right here, there's the campground, there's Hemlock, there's Bentley's. This Weir's Motor, Arundel Ford is here. Sam's Road is right here. Cynthia Hopkins' piece is here. This is the Arundel Gas right there. Witness property is over here. Calder, and then here's Velma Hayes, and here's Vic Fritz, and this is the other parcel right here.
That's where Fritz's auto.
That's where Fritz's auto is. This is his son's, and he's got this little tiny connection right there.
So is Fritz's before the seasonal cottages?
Yes.
Yeah, seasonal cottages are right here.
Right along the side of his property.
Right over there.
For some reason, I was thinking he was after.
No.
Well, they're very close. They're relatively close to downtown area. But the issue that had come up that you had been concerned with, and which the planning board had heard concerns about, was the question of taking areas here that are currently residential. This is residential. This area and through here is residential, all residential right now. This area all here is R4, it's 3 acre zoning. And we were looking at ways that we could increase the amount of area, especially lands that are not developed and don't have a lot of future development potential. We'd even like to pull it closer, but my planning board is very nervous about how far to come, what will Post Road, which is this road here, because Old Post Road, of course, is very residential, has a long-standing residential community. And we have a number of basically long roads that go in through some of these areas here that we have one or two houses out at the very end. But the area that we have designated here has no residences in it all, there's no development in there at all. So that's all open land that is undeveloped at this particular time. There are key areas like down in here, in which these guys have been trying to figure out what to do with some of these properties for years, because they're zoned residential currently, and they can't make residential development proposals work. Especially when you have to enter them through the business zone. In many cases here, you have to enter them through the business zone. There are entrances at various locations through here into some of these properties. If you amass these properties together, if you were a developer, certainly you would have an opportunity to put one heck of a big piece of property together to be able to do a good-sized project, which I believe is what the EDC was talking about at the last meeting, in which they were talking about the need for large parcels of land for the big solutions to Arundel's revenue stream. Great projects come along every once in a while, but it's always good to have that capability, and this really does foster that. The planning board was looking at also encouraging various road loops in here, and not mandating, but requiring connectivity of some sort. And in fact, even when we, very honestly, this is on the record, so it's provable, actually, Bentley Warren, this is his property, he wanted the whole thing all the way to Old Post in this district. However, and he was concerned about his campground, wanted to stop the road here, but then when he looked at the road alignment, he looked at the campground, he looked at the road alignment, he said, my goodness, I could make much more. My property's worth much more if it were connected to this road, which is connected to these properties. This thing was much more valuable as business land than it would be as a campground, which that was something he was musing at that time. So he said, bring the road all the way through. Consider that. Not ours. We're not going to demand you put the road there. It's up to you.
And would you say all the way through to his road, or?
Yeah. He was looking at that.
Ted, I thought we weren't gonna, I noticed that some of the properties are broken and that some of them, it's only pieces of it.
Yeah.
Was there some reason why, did we do another so many feet or something?
No, we're basing it on, in some cases, we're getting very close to existing residences. That's the issue.
Right, but one of the biggest problems that we've had all along with trying to do this kind of stuff is when you start breaking somebody's property apart. Is there some reason why it didn't go along property lines?
Well, because in this case, this property would come all the way to the Old Post Road. The planning board said we're not going on Old Post Road.
Okay.
That's why.
Okay.
Okay.
Question, Ted.
Sure.
Now, you come off of Route 1 heading towards River Road, you got the play.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, you want the playhouse.
Yep.
And that's still listed as residential?
Nope. No, Adrian, that's here, right here. That's Adrian Grant's property. She asked actually to be in the DB2. She was in the DB1. She said, can I be in DB2? And he said, okay. Sounds good. It's reasonable. Because her property was going to be cut in half by being in the DB1 and the DB2. And we said, heck, just put it in one. Where possible, try to put, except the frontage lots in here, the frontage properties, try to put as much as possible in one district or the other. Let's not divide lots where we don't have to. In some cases, we have to because of the fact that we're getting close to residential properties, and the planning board says we're not going to go that far. In other cases, trying to create that village scale that the 2005 comp plan was demanded, quite frankly, in the current zoning demand. We're keeping that same image and changing the backland so it could accommodate and encourage more intense development. Whereas in the red areas, we're looking at buildings that are 20,000 square feet in size. That's the maximum footprint for a building, which is still a damn big building. Understand that Kate's Butter is 17,000. So Kate's Butter is still smaller than the maximum size building. But it's got some design standards that break it up visually, and break it up in terms of footprint, jobs, and all the rest of that stuff. But 20,000 is pretty good. Yes?
The skinny section, once you pass like the seafood center, all that, it's a little wider, and then it gets very, very narrow on the,
Right here?
yeah, how deep is that about?
That's gonna be about 150 feet, and the reason
Does that
being-
allow enough for a business to put anything in there?
Well, the problem is we kept it to two things. Number one, to existing property line that was there. This is an existing property, it's a very shallow property. And then this is the front of the campground. Now, unless the campground changes, which I don't imagine it will, we didn't want to put some campsites in. This is kind of like an administrative area up front. We didn't want to put campsites in the DB1 because campgrounds aren't allowed in the DB1. Now, even though we do have that provision that says that all existing uses at the time of adoption are permitted uses, that use right there is a permitted use. So Where's Motors is a permitted use where it stands, even though other automobile dealerships in the red zone wouldn't be allowed. Land over here to do it, and huge amounts back in here. But, Where's Motors wouldn't be affected, wouldn't be non-conforming. So there's no business that will be made non-conforming by that. But at the same time, we just wanted to, limit the size of the DB1 in that particular area. That's why.
Do you have any idea off the top of your head what the total acreage in DB2 is?
I haven't run that number because it's been a shifting whirl. But I do need to run that number, yeah. In terms of how many more acres we get over what we have currently. But it is significant.
Scott?
Just that one piece going down River Road.
Right here?
Yeah, right here, yeah, right here. That one just doesn't make a ton of sense to me, going, DB1.
Well, my concern was that we have existing historic residences right here. And it's right up against the residential district, right at that location.
Right.
So
Wouldn't
the
you go
concern would be,
DB2?
well, if I made it green, if I did put
Yeah.
DB2 there, it would be, I don't have the same design standards or limitations that I have with DB1. DB1 is smaller scale, but DB2 is large scale. Remember, the green is 100,000 square foot building, the red is 20,000 square foot building. Right now, the planning board is not looking at much in terms of design standards for the green.
But green's mixed,
They're all mixed use.
even the red is.
Yeah, but in the red, besides the safety valve provision that this group wants, the red residential is allowed on the second floor only, so it encourages vertical stratification of uses. Existing residents or existing residences. But, again, it's the argument saying we have a limited amount of business area, we're not gonna promote single-family development, in the red area, we're gonna promote it, but promote it on the second, third floors, or associated with a business. So if you were a contractor, let's say, and you had your residence there, you have your business out front, and you have your residence behind it, that's fine. But the objective is to discourage single-family residences in that area. No two ways about it. Because that's your business downtown. That's the area you want for your business downtown. So, but at the same time, we recognize the fact that downtowns work because they have residences. It's a famous reality that too many cities, too many towns don't recognize until they've made a mistake. Like, a good example is downtown Portland. Basically banned residences from Congress Street until they realized there's nobody there in Congress Street after 5 o'clock, so they changed that around quickly. And the object there is to try to go more business, with residences and allow for residents on all other floors except for the first. But we're in the weeds now.
Now, you said the larger parcel was the campground in that narrow section, or is that all campground all around that whole narrow section?
This whole thing is, the campground, the campground is basically this area in here.
Okay, so that second section,
This is part of the campground. That's just a separate lot, but I believe, well,
That's a
did we make a
residence.
mistake?
I believe that's a single-family residence that could have potential as a business.
I don't know, I'll have to re-look at that. Took that from the original, I'll take another one.
But that single family residence is set back.
Way back, I never
But I guess my concern is that if it's Route 1 property and we're zoning for future, what if the campground folded?
Yep.
Then you've got a very narrow 100-foot thing that nobody can do anything with.
That's a good point. That's a
You
good
know?
point.
So, I mean, if it's not gonna be non-conforming anyways, why are we making it so narrow that nothing else will go into that area?
So are you suggesting that instead of that
I
little
just-
cutout, that line kind of goes straight up?
Well,
So it's the same distance back from Route 1 to the south of that point as it is?
I would, if it's not gonna make it non-conforming,
Yeah, no, I'm just asking what you're suggesting doing
I
with the
think
map.
that would be more my
Yeah.
suggestion to, you know,
From a campground perspective, that might make his property, if he was to, let's say, sell it.
more valuable. and
Yeah, more marketable for,
Yeah.
whatever.
I mean, you
Well,
know,
actually, I think the DB2 is more valuable because it has more possibilities than the DB1. What?
If you make it bigger.
Yeah, but it could be something that, if somebody, let's say he was to fold and somebody were to buy that property, it could be, they could have something by along Route 1 and then go in the back and do whatever they got.
Yeah, I mean, it's not gonna chew up a lot of the DB2. It's a
Right.
relatively small strip we'd be adding to DB1. There's still a large parcel in the back.
And it doesn't affect anything that's there right now.
Right.
my big concern is that if you ever have anything that wants to go there besides the campground, I mean, what can you do with 100 feet of property? There's no parking there, you'd have, well, you could put your parking in your DB2, but it kind of limits, and if it's not gonna affect conformity later on, I don't know, that's just my thought.
Well, that's a good point.
Yeah, it's a
It's a very valid point, Skip, thank you.
But back to the question of how we're gonna find out how these property owners feel about this. Shy of offering them liquor or anything else. I mean, I made a suggestion at the planning board meeting that we try to survey these people to see if they'll respond to it, at least a survey about how they feel about it. Because I'm a little apprehensive about this, and that's only because I'm a property owner, and we did hear from some at the meeting last week that, we're concerned about it encroaching on some of theirs, but I really would like a better feel on something that I can see, documented as to how some of these other property owners feel about it. Because I don't want to get all the way to town meeting and have half of them show up and turn the whole thing around on our heads. We've had that happen before.
Right. The only thing I'm concerned about is that you can't kind of survey them because
Yeah, you can.
they'll have a lot of misinformation on there. They don't understand the process necessarily, so they look at a survey and they think, well, this is just gonna
Well,
make it
no, it's
harder.
not. No, what I'm saying is, you can send them the nuts and bolts of what you're proposing that they do in this area in regards to zoning it commercial versus residential. And,
But
and
again-
what would be allowed uses in that area that we know today. And the size, because that stuff is written down. And get their feedback with the information or what we've already proposed.
But again, you have like the landowner who thought that we were going to be increasing it, and we were actually decreasing the commercial area. And his idea was, this is my home, but at the same time, I don't think he could see the fact that if he owned 20 acres and it becomes more valuable, was to say you don't sell it and get a 100-acre parcel somewhere else.
Well, I think
And I
his
think-
concern wasn't that, I think his concern is that he sees that with increasing the green, I'm just gonna call it green, with increasing that green area, this is pushing it further and further towards where he lives. And I
Right.
think that's his concern. I don't think he's really that concerned with selling his land, I think he's more concerned with this is where I live.
Right. But what I'm saying is that there are going to be family member people that own private residences that are thinking that just because it's going to be zoned commercial, a different kind of commercial than that it's been for years, it's gonna imply that their taxes are gonna go up or whatever. I think I would rather see them coming and, you know, maybe the more meetings we hold and keep,
Right, but if
Pulling
we,
them
but
in.
if we can't, I mean, we
You know.
had one meeting and we had, what, three property owners?
I think wintertime is.
Well, that's another part of the problem.
Yeah.
But
You know, and I
we
think
have to
you
get
can-
some sense for
I
what
think you
these.
take Diane's idea and just expand on it, right? I mean, you could send them a little bit more information, maybe send them a questionnaire, but at the same time, follow up with a phone call and just leave a quick message, hey, you know, we're having a meeting, you know,
It's important that you be
it's
there.
important that you be there, it may affect your land future down, you
We're
know,
looking
your
for
land down the
We're
road.
looking for your input.
Right, just a
You know,
quick,
it's-
and no big explanation, maybe it's just a canned statement for every single one that you call.
It's really too bad that we can't set up, you know, in this day and age, and I'm just gonna say it, in this day and age, it's too bad that we can't set up to do it like on a conference, because I know that some of these people aren't even here. Some of these people aren't even in the state of Maine right now. Probably quite a few of them, actually. And it's too bad that we can't find some way to, if you could at least have a meeting and conference in the ones that aren't here, but we've got to find a way to get some sense of what they want or don't want, because I'm a little nervous about going this full blown without having a better sense other than from 3 people.
Well, I absolutely agree with you on that. We need to hear from more people, but
That's how we do it.
I think a letter with a map, and included in the letter some of the language from the comp plan, which is a little less cumbersome than what the planning board has, you know, with a long list of stuff. And
Where it's got the actual ordinance written. That's why it's-
clearly spell out the intent and the potential effect on the landowner, and say, you know, if this passes as it is currently proposed, the following will be so. We would like your input. If we don't hear from you, we tried. You know, I mean, obviously phrase that very nicely. You know, there's going to be some people that no matter what we do, for whatever reason, we're not going to hear from. But I think a letter that clearly addresses some of the issues we heard the other night, as opposed to the initial very generic letter, which was fine. But now that we know what some of the issues are, I think we can, you know, perhaps craft a different kind of message and maybe get a little more interest.
What issues did you see from that night?
Well, I think the issue of, you know, what happens to my taxes, that's a big one. And that's really a 2-level thing, you know. Initially, nothing happens to your taxes, but potentially down the road, something does. You know, and that is probably a very long way away, but nonetheless, that's a real thing. If I'm an abutter to another piece of this, and somebody builds something huge on that piece, how does it impact my land and my ability to do what I want? So, you know, assuming you're, you know, a landowner in DB2 and you're next to, obviously, other people in DB2, what they do is going to impact you. The restriction on residential. And another question that came up actually after the meeting, I was talking to Pam Drew, and she said her mother owns one of the pieces, and she said, well, what would happen if we split that piece? She said, could we build 2 residences? And I said, that's a really good question. And, you know, that's something we need to spell out. Obviously, our intent is that, no, you can't.
But upon the passage of the ordinance, you only get one.
Right.
You can't split.
But that has to, those are the kinds of things, if we just address them, you know, bullet points. This is how it is, this is how it is, this is how it is. These are the proposals. We need to hear from you.
I guess I to a certain extent, I have kind of an issue with the potential for your taxes to increase, because it's kind of a moot point as far as, like, if you live along River Road, last time, I think it was a while back, just because waterfront property is just more, I guess, how would you call it?
It's assessed on a higher
Assessed
scale.
at a higher level.
Right, it says, and that brought up because basically, like, the land values were selling higher along the river than they were inland. And so people along there saw an increase in their land values, so it's difficult to say that just because you're on Route 1 that this will happen. It might not happen.
Right.
And it's the same thing, with waterfront property is more valuable because it's limited.
But the intent to do this is so that businesses can come in to knock down your taxes.
Right,
That's
but
really
you're
the
trying
intent
to,
of doing
it's
this.
almost like a scare tactic saying that if businesses come, your land will be more valuable and your taxes are gonna go up.
Right, and
The
that's
land
just-
values are
But
gonna
you
go
can't
up.
say that it won't though.
That part's not necessarily, again, going back to the discussion the other night, you made the good point that you can't tax on potential.
Right.
But you can't assess on potential. But that once you get to the point where you're the only one left and it's all commercial, then there's a pressure that makes your land more valuable, and at that point, perhaps it will
Well, I'm
increase.
sure just like Bitterford Crossing, when that came up,
Right.
the land became more valuable because the
So,
stores wanted it, but,
My guess would be that most landowners would be concerned about the initial piece of that. If today you change my land from residential to commercial, do my taxes go up
Right,
tomorrow?
and I don't
The
have a
answer is
problem,
no.
and I don't have a problem
that's all the
answering.
information you
that you
say,
need,
though. I
right.
think because the other is
Right.
speculation.
It's speculation.
And I think using speculative
Right,
information is bad
It's scary.
information. It scares people,
Yeah.
and it has no basis in reality if you just speculate.
yeah.
Now, if they want to pursue that question,
They can pursue it here at the meeting.
exactly.
Right.
You can't, it's just like saying that, when we built our first house, we bought 2 acres for $4,000, $5,000. You could find 2 acres for $4,000 nowadays. So, to sit there and have told me that my values were gonna go up, because I built in that area, it's gonna go up everywhere. The land, there's only so much land, it's limited, it's gonna go up. So I think that needs to be left out. Just, that this won't change because of the zoning, is okay, but I think, to sit there and say because it's commercial and eventually, it's gonna go up. Values always go up.
I think the fact that probably every landowner in the area is gonna be in a different circumstance from all the others, trying to answer all the questions that are gonna come up in a letter, I think is gonna be very, very difficult. I would kind of agree with Simone that I think we ought to try to come up with something to get them in here where we can thrash this out as a group. I think would be a lot more effective than, I think if we tried to put out a letter explaining all these points, it's gonna be so long that 9 out of 10 are just gonna say,
That wasn't quite what I was aiming for. But I was looking for, I guess, sort of a happy medium, something between a very generic, we're thinking about changing something about your land, we're having a meeting Thursday, you want to be there? That's
That didn't work.
not enough of a push. If we were specific about, here's a map with your letter. This is your land. This is what's going.
power plant we want to put.
Yeah, right.
That would get it.
This is what will change if this proposal goes through. So that they look at it and say, oh, well, I could live with that, or heck no, I want to go to that meeting and talk about it.
But if they say yes, we still want to know if they say yes.
Yes.
And unfortunately, they might not. They'll just, doesn't.
Right, but if we at least give them an opportunity, if they got the letter but they couldn't come because they're not even in the state mail,
Right.
that makes it hard. If you send them out a letter saying we want to have a meeting, but if you're not here or if you can't come, we'd still like you to send your comments, your opinions, how do you feel about this, so that we can at least get some sense as to what, but 3 people doesn't cut it. I mean, out of 34, 3 people, that doesn't give you a really good sense of it, how these people feel.
Especially when one of them wasn't even in the district.
Right.
The-
The person who was most vocal was not even in the district.
But still had legitimate concerns.
Oh, no, I'm not saying he didn't.
But he thought he was in the district.
He thought he was
thought he
in the
was,
district.
yes.
I guess, and you said you had heard back from 3 other people besides the people here, so we really heard from 6 people who are in the district. Is that not correct?
But for me, I'd like to see it either in person where it's taped or on paper.
Well,
I'm sure he can put the comments that he got on paper if that's, but I'm saying he did here, we have 6
So that
people
we know
have given
which
some
ones and
information.
which areas are we, because if it's one area that's an issue, do you take that area out, versus leaving them all in?
Mr. Shea,
Go ahead.
More discouraging to me is a comment that Dan made last night at the selectmen's meeting, is that I believe you said you had spoken to people who were in that district and knew they got something from the town, but just threw it in the recycle bin.
A comment that was made at that meeting.
And don't even read it. So maybe we follow up with, maybe do for one meeting that's a month away, do a mailing a week. Because if we know there's only 34 residents and there's only a maximum of $20-something to do those mailings, maybe one of them will catch their attention and get them to open that envelope. And I often ask, how much of the information, the paraphernalia that gets sent from town hall goes straight in the recycle bin.
What about registered mail?
We can do registered mail.
Since we're locking in a limited number of.
I'll tell you though, that's a pain in the butt. 'Cause if
Actually-
you're
People get
not
scared
home,
when they
you
get
have to go
registered
to-
mail.
You have to go to the.
Yeah, and
post office
actually,
to get it.
when we send things out, like, even the foreclosure notices, a month before, I send out regular first-class mail, and I get more response from that than certified mail that gets returned to me, because they
They
either,
don't want
they
to
don't
pick
want
it
to
up.
go by and pick it up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because Arundel doesn't have a post office, and they have to go all the way to the board.
You have to sign for it, and
And if there's 34 people and you know where the meeting is, if you get me the names and the telephone numbers, I'll call some of them and ask them to come.
Oh, I was gonna say, you guys are gonna have a phone bank, right?
You know,
It wouldn't
And I
be
think
the
that's
first
okay,
time.
but the point that I want to stress on that is if we do that, then we have a statement that we all read. I don't want your individual
No.
telling all these people something different.
well,
Right.
the
This
only
is all that
problem-
we're allowed to say, this is what it is, if you want more information, come to the meeting.
the only
Yeah, see,
problem
for
is
me,
they'll
it would only
probably
be,
ask.
we're having a meeting on this, you're getting something in the mail, please read it, please come to this meeting. Not getting
I
into the
think-
nuts and
I don't
bolts
know.
of it.
And that gets more and more difficult as the years go by, because people are getting rid of landlines, you can't get their phone numbers out of the phone book anymore. The information for cell phones is supposed to be public, but to be able to find it is a real pain in the butt.
But again, we do what you can.
Right,
You can only
exactly.
do
No,
what you
absolutely.
can. But, when if they have a cell phone and it's unlisted and we can't get hold of them,
We try.
Then you send the letter,
we're
so,
gonna send letters anyways.
yeah.
Since my idea of registered mail is obviously a really, really bad one, I'm just going to go back to Tom's suggestion of multiple mailings, which I think has some merit.
Yeah.
Even if it's a letter with all of the information like you sent, and then follow up with 2 postcards. I mean, I'd be more, see, if I see something from the town of Lyman, I hate to admit this, but if I know my taxes aren't due or something else isn't due, I might open it, and if it's a long-winded, I'll throw it in the, but if I get even if it's junk mail, if I get a postcard, you pick it up and you can see it. You don't have to open anything, and you
Save the
just.
date.
Yeah, save the date, or, very important meeting to
Let
be
me,
held.
let me throw something out, because people aren't gonna open something that says just Town of Arundel. What if I'm gonna go out there on a limb and just go outside the box.
Says you're a winner.
No? What if we did something like, put it in a different colored envelope, put it in the form of a card versus just a letter? Because people are probably more inclined to open up what they think is a card versus a letter from the town. I mean, for me, I see the regular stuff and I throw it. I see something, oh, this is different, this is a colored envelope, this one, I might look at it.
Obviously
You get the
something
kind
wrong
of
with it.
invitations that are made all the time, though, Diane, you open it up
Depends on
until
the-
you're invited to a,
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
a lunch given by financial advisor Joe
Right.
Blow, because he'd like to get his hands on all your money.
We could do that too.
Rephrase that.
You'd still have the town of Arundel on the envelope, you'd still have town of Arundel on the envelope, but I'm saying make it not so,
Kind of like Donna's idea, you have won the prize, call this number to collect it, and then you got them on the other end of the line.
We are not the police.
Open this letter, it could change your life. Something like that's gonna make, it will change my life, I'm gonna open this, but repetitive mailings, I think.
Another card dealer.
Yeah.
If we do something that really boils down to false advertising, that will make that meeting very exciting when all those people show up.
Well, when
This is not junk mail.
we talked about saying your taxes will go up, that'll get people in the room, and then you just, with a big sign that says, just kidding, but you're here, so let's talk. You know,
We
just
schedule a meeting for the 1st of April?
So can somebody like put together some sort of letter and maybe we can all just go over it and make sure that we're all on the same page?
might be a little bit more work, but we might get more than 3 people. You know, if there's only 34 parcels in the district, we're not, you know, if we're looking at a residential zone with 200 parcels, we might have a problem, but this is a pretty important district here, and there's gotta be something that's going to get people to wanna attend these meetings.
And I'm willing to make calls to all 34.
Yeah.
Give me what to state on the letter, and, you know, I'll say the same thing to everybody that listens or anybody's answering machine that comes on.
But there also has to be an avenue for those that can't
Right.
come to send their comments.
Absolutely.
And I think that should be made as easy as possible, even to the point where you don't have to write down your comments, call the town hall,
Yell at
The
them.
town hall, or the website.
Town manager at arundelmaine.org.
You got it.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
34 parcels, is that DB 1 and 2? That's everything, 34?
No, it's 34 mainly in the DB2.
Okay.
There's a couple in the DB1 that were included, like, for instance, here,
You
here's
included
the
the ones that
Strickland
were
piece right here,
changes.
and this is the road that goes in. So, I sent one to George, you know, I sent one to, these are 2 different Stricklands, but I sent this one, well, these are 2 different Stricklands. I sent that one to, even though he is in the DB1, but, you know, I took the liberty of informing people who would really be affected by it. Most of these, for instance, are already in the district.
Okay.
This whole thing's already in the district. There aren't too many changes in the district. In fact, most people are moving from DB1 over to DB2.
Well, that's a good
On
thing.
this side, they're going to DB2. Yeah. So, yeah, it's a good thing. Yeah,
We
they're
think-
increasing.
We think
the
it's a
potential.
good thing.
Well, actually, that's something, if we put a letter together, that's something that should be in the letter. The letter should be individualized. So it said, you know, dear Mr. Smith, your parcel, lot, whatever, map, whatever, is being proposed to be moved from R1 or R2 or whatever to a new district called DB2. The following changes will occur according
Means
to
we have
this.
to send everybody the ordinance. And do that. Come in and take a look at what we're planning to do.
Well, no,
It gets,
Like I say, I can't put the following, because then that's the ordinance. Then the postage is gonna go.
but that can be phrased in very general terms, in terms of you're going from what is, if you're going from R1 into DB2, you're going from a residential district into this new mixed-use district, which will restrict residential development. That would do it for me. Come in and hear the details, come in with your questions.
But that's putting the negative spin on it when you're saying it's
Well, all
gonna
right.
restrict
Yes, you're right.
residential development, but it's opening up the potential for you
Yes.
to be able
Yes,
to,
you're
you've
absolutely
got
right.
a
It has to be
potential.
followed with the carrot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, because you have an increased potential for the value of your property, you know, to be
Right,
developed.
but I think the point is that we want it individualized instead of just sent out to, the letter looked like it was just regular, I hate to say it, it looked like junk mail. It wasn't addressed to them personally, and it didn't address what law it was affecting.
Yep.
So if people got them, they didn't really understand what it was changing or what really was affecting them.
do a mail merge and just, you know, like Diane said, have it addressed to Mr. and Mrs. So-and-so, and in the letter say your lot XYZ is part of the discussions. I think that would help.
Make it much more personal.
And at least they know that they're affected and
And that we care.
maybe they're.
Where people matter.
Where people know that.
Well,
says on the website.
Just a little sarcasm.
Is that your new tagline, what you're proposing?
I read it online, so it has to be true.
Bonjour.
There just has to be a way to get more than 3 people. I think the same, similar thing happened in Townhouse Corner where there are,
It was the same kind of thing, it was a very cold night.
yeah, exactly.
Right.
This is February.
Even if we get, 50%,
Mhm.
whatever we do has to show really good faith effort on our part.
Right.
And then if somebody comes up later and says, I had no idea, but we're gonna say, we don't know how you had no idea, because all these other people did. And, we're sorry, and how can we help you now?
Here's what you missed, and a follow-up for people who didn't make it, and say, this is, just a bullet point, this is what was discussed. Questions, comments, concerns, call us at Town Hall.
Yeah.
Yeah. Follow-up letter again with, this
Yeah.
is what was discussed, sorry you couldn't make it.
Yeah.
We're gonna have another meeting, maybe such and such a night, this is what we're discussing, and we can try to keep you up to date on what's happening, and maybe send it out every, couple of weeks or every month or so. And
Maybe you might even get them to bite on just an email.
Short and sweet.
townplanner@arundelmaine.org, and maybe they'll reply, I can't make it, this is what I'm hearing, can you clarify this, can you explain that briefly?
However,
Bring them to the website.
Looking at some of the property owners, I suspect we have quite a few who are not
No,
email
yeah, exactly.
savvy. However, Simone and I have just volunteered to do a draft, we'll work on it together. Yeah.
So moved. Put that in writing.
Sean and I will work on a couple drafts.
Sure. We're gonna go KISS, right?
What?
We're gonna keep it simple. Keep it simple.
Keep it simple.
Stupid.
Someone.
Simone, keep it simple, Simone.
Keep it simple, Simone.
I mean, really.
Yeah.
No, I agree with you.
It is, it's the easiest
Very
way,
simple
sometimes the
and
more you give, the more information you give, people get this glazed look like, I don't understand the thing you're talking about, and I don't want to, so I think it's simpler.
They get that Sean look. They get the haze look.
Well, I have one other thing I'd like to bring up about something that occurred at that meeting, and that was from the fellow who thought he was in the district who wasn't.
Mr.
What-
Searles.
Yes, Mr. Searles. One of the things that he mentioned, and I've been giving it thought against my better judgment, is that maybe we should be really looking at the infrastructure issue on Route 1, in terms of sewer. Because if we're gonna open up all of this potential and still have no infrastructure to offer, what's gonna happen? What's gonna happen with the potential? When somebody asked about the cost of it, and it was, like I said, 1 to 2 million,
No, it's 2.2 million.
2.2 million.
Okay.
And I don't know how the town would go about, financing that or pushing for it, but that would be something as a taxpayer that I would give serious thoughts to supporting. I can't sit here and say, wow, I'm looking forward to an increase in mill rate for the sewer on Route 1, but if it's a piece of this larger picture to make this work, that to me sounds like a good investment for us on its
And that
face.
would be something that would be recommended by this committee.
And the EDC
With
as
a, with a
well.
sewer impact fee.
Yeah.
Well,
that
it would
be-
be in an existing sewer district unless we created our own. We'd want to be a part of
What?
an existing.
Right, but what I'm
Who
saying
already
is,
has
that
it,
if
already
they're
has it.
using the sewer, there would have to be some kind of cost associated.
Oh, yeah.
Because the town can't.
There always
pay
is.
for it.
The only place that doesn't do that is Old Orchard Beach.
Right, but
Right.
most of the sewer fees go by your water usage.
Right, but then I think that's important
Which is
because
what they have over there.
you're saying that Route 1 would be a good area to do like senior housing or even hotels or whatever. You can't do a hotel on a septic. I think that, well, you could, on a septic system, but I think when you're thinking of laundry and all this type of thing in these facilities, having a sewer have
Well, you
is
could do it,
major.
but not on these soils.
Right.
You could do it, let's say in Freeport, well, actually Freeport's extended their soil from that. You can do it in a place where you have Adams soil, nice, fast draining soil. We don't have any of
You
that.
can do it in Lyman.
You do it in alignment, actually you could, but nobody wants to do it.
So Don,
With good reason.
Isn't
Was there
this,
something already in
isn't this
his
a very good
implementation plan
argument?
for that? I'm trying to
I
find it.
believe so.
Yeah, I'm
It is
looking
in the
for
plan.
it. I
Yeah.
thought I saw it.
But, you know,
It's in the first section.
Maybe the time is right.
isn't this a very good argument for us to get behind and support the TIF district for the cottage?
Again,
Because that would
I
be-
think the TIF district, we need to really understand what it's like, and the selectman's standpoint
Can I
is,
finish?
let's understand what it is.
Yeah, can I finish?
Sorry.
Okay. The money that would come in off that district, off that TIF district, would be eligible for building a sewer down Route 1. And it's probably the best bet we've got for financing such a project, because it is going to be expensive. Just a thought, I realize we all need to understand what a TIF district is, but I think once we all understand what it is and how it works, that would be Arundel's best bet for financing a sewer project down Route 1. And I think that's something we ought to think about getting behind and supporting.
I mean, the selectmen certainly agree with that, you know, and it'd be nice to do that, but we want to make sure that, you know, people throw this TIF, you know, what, we want to make sure it's the right thing to do for the town of Arundel.
Right. You also have, I mean, and I'll tell you, after
F3,
having watched some of the
97.
TIF districts, like in Biddeford, in the state bakeries, huge TIF.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. They
But
didn't
all
pay
TIFs
the-
aren't created equal, and that's
They-
stupid, because they didn't go with captured value. They gave all
They
the
didn't-
captured
Yeah, but
value
they didn't pay
away.
their taxes and then they went bankrupt, which left them with, what I don't wanna see is, I don't wanna see a TIF district and find out that the cottages fail and we still end up having to pay for infrastructure.
No, that's exactly why, very honestly, that's the TIF that we're not going to have. That's what we talked to them about, and they understand that. They pay for the infrastructure and they get a return.
No. I'm saying, if we wanted to use the money from the TIF,
Yeah.
From the cottages.
from the
Yeah,
cottages,
from the
to
cottages.
do sewer,
Right.
well, what I wanna see is I want the money put aside for the sewer, not done until you have the money to do the sewer, or
Or until you
But I-
leverage it with other financing vehicles.
Right,
Use
so
as
that
a
you don't end
match
up with a
leverage.
humongous impact to the people in the town.
Right. Absolutely, no, I agree. The worst thing you could do, and give me Kennebunk, but the worst thing you could do is do a Kennebunk. When you do a TIF district in an existing area that has the infrastructure and you have very little upside potential and you capture value, you're making an assumption that something is going to be incredibly popular, and you invest a lot of money up front, and you bond out a tremendous amount of money, which is what you're talking about, and the upside potential doesn't develop. So that means that money is taken, that money is paid for by the taxpayer, not by the dedicated funds. I think the selectmen are very sensitive to that. I think that's the only way it's gonna sell. But it also means there's lag time. So there would have to be some lag time before that money, which means what, about 8 years before we could put in the sewer? We won't wait 8 years, is the question. That's a policy decision that these guys have got. Well, you do too, but I mean, they're ultimately the policymakers and whether they're willing to take that to the townspeople.
John?
I mean, with the whole Obama plan, he's willing to help out everybody. Isn't there some type of grant that's out, that might be available for economic development?
There is for refund.
Yeah, remember, he doesn't have any money that he doesn't take from somebody else.
That's not.
Actually, no, what Sean's talking about, yes, there are grant programs and there are long-standing grant programs. There's economic development infrastructure funds that come from
RDA.
Well, they do have them, the RDA. I don't know how many they got left. I was hesitating on that. They still have economic, public infrastructure grants under CDBG. We have to qualify for it, which would be creative. But it can be done. We'll put in some sidewalks, and those will be handicap ramps. Oh, we automatically qualify. So, hey,
Okay, we do have people that will go down Campground Road, Log Cabin Road, and Route 1 in a wheelchair, motorized wheelchair.
Oh, we do now, and we don't have sidewalks.
Exactly. Well,
So why do we need sidewalks?
I'm going, because that's what gets you the money for the other stuff. The thing about CDBG, one thing you have to understand about CDBG is every single grant program has a program has a program objective they're trying to achieve. In CDBG, they're trying to solve one of three problems. They're either trying to eliminate slum and blight, which is good old-fashioned urban renewal stuff from the 50s. Number two, they're trying to, you're dealing with a disadvantaged group. You're probably providing opportunities to a designated group that the census and HUD consider to be people prone towards poverty. And that would be the handicapped or the elderly, and a couple other groups too. And that's where the wheelchair accessibility comes in. The third is, of course, people with low moderate income. 51% of the people who are serviced by your facility or your improvement are essentially benefit this low moderate income. The low moderate income is based on county, it's based on family size, and mean income. It's determined by the state and by the feds. So,
And along those lines, if you ran the store line down Route 1 and you headed up down Campground Road, you've got the trailer parks that are usually low income as far as not, most of them are either seniors or whatever, but,
remember, we're only going from here to here, we're talking 2 million without any new facility. 1.9 to 2 million, 2.2.
And that's that's our infrastructure cost. We also have to factor in the expansion costs
Yeah.
for the Kennebunk sewer district, which,
That will probably have to be participated.
I mean, they will receive the impact
That's what it
fees.
costs today. What's it gonna cost?
8 years.
8 years or 10
That's
years.
the whole
to
issue.
actually
Yeah.
do it. I mean, I think
There's
if
some
we're
costs
even doing this, there's a place where you need to talk about projected costs.
Yeah, you do. And you also, then you start looking at, shall we take baby steps? Should we
Right.
start taking chomps at the teams and bites instead of one swell food?
Well, the table in the comp plan states to a point approximately 1,000 feet north of the River Road intersection. So what the table had stated is just to go up a little ways.
No, that's just about it here, that's just in this area.
Yeah.
The River Road intersection,
So I mean, the comp plan had looked at some of that, the committee had looked at some of that before. And the other, I want to ask Diane, because she was, and Donna, it says, explore options for community sewage disposal to serve the commercial and urban residential areas only. That meaning sewer, or was that
I have no
the
idea.
intent of that?
Sewers, drop-in sewer treatment plants.
That's been there for a long time, not written by anybody I know.
And I think they were probably talking about, on-site septic, basically community septic.
Yeah,
Which is exactly what the cottages are doing, they're doing on-site
Right.
septic.
So if you had some parcels with several businesses, they pool their resources, so to speak. You
Pool assess.
didn't think I was going there for a minute.
Thought you were gonna advise that one, but you didn't.
No, but, unfortunately, the way that you said that, and if you repeat what you just said, Dan, is the community sewage disposal, correct?
yes.
Explore options for community sewage disposal.
That, if that predates the previous rewrite, and Donna doesn't remember anything before that, they could be talking about that old statute where we needed to have a place to dump sewage, literally.
I think that runs along the line that I think they were trying to get developments to, rather than do individual septic
Then
systems,
I'm wrong.
to do a community septic
Okay.
for a clustered housing development. I believe that's what it was, and that never took off because people feel that, like if this is only good for 10 years and then this isn't the same neighbor that moved in 10 years ago, are they gonna wanna pitch in to have the septic system fixed for the community thing? And then, I think there were issues with,
Ownership of the.
Yes,
Well,
yeah.
some people, especially with the septic, because they're sensitive to certain things. I mean, even sewer is a septic. If you look at Portland's issue like that.
Yes.
Well, yeah, wipes,
Yeah,
people
are
flushing
very,
the wrong.
you know, if you live with one, you become sensitive as to what you put down the sink, what you put down in your toilet.
Right.
Nobody
Much more
wants
so
to, well,
than
there's two
people that
reasons.
live in the
Number one
city.
is,
Right.
nobody wants to do it. Number two is we never can find a large enough area of good soil to do it.
To do a
That's the real-
community
that's the
disposal
real
site.
problem.
Because it always comes up in the planning board for when we're doing subdivisions, and it always gets way,
Well, guess what? We took it out last time.
Yeah.
It's gone.
And
yeah,
it was
the board
confined.
never forced it.
And I
Right,
believe that's
and I
where
think
that
that's
comes
because
from.
finding a big enough site that the soils can handle it is not an easy thing to
Yeah.
do.
Well, the cost, from what Rick Light told us for the seasonal cottages,
It's phenomenal.
it was a phenomenal cost.
And it's actually, they actually toyed with going up to bid.
Yeah.
And it was and the costs were within the
I
ballpark.
wish I could remember what he had said for a cost, but for those
It's
units.
gonna be
Yeah,
substantial.
see, in the long run, they'd probably still be better off to take it down a bit further.
They get quite a system there, let me tell you.
They do, they do have a big system,
State of the art, boy.
but that would,
Coming
that
out of
would
That's gonna be
triple-
cleaner than what you drink at the house.
Yeah.
Not that I'm gonna drink
It's
it.
a tertiary system, well, that's what Kennel's gonna, Kennel gets tertiary too. But the point is that that's 3 times the length to get it there. Now, it
And
opens
you
up
have to
all,
cross the railroad.
and you have to cross the railroad. But you can spend sewer under the bridge. You don't have to go underneath, it's not like a gas line. You don't have to go under.
I
And,
think
It'd have to be a force main at that point, wouldn't it?
well, it's gonna have to be enforcement anyways, because you're going uphill.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
just
you
gonna
It's
have to pump
upgrading,
it.
Yep.
so.
Well, no, I think it's, we need to know, because, I mean, if we're talking about infrastructure, you need to know that if somebody's already explored it, taken a look at it, and it's not like it's a straight shot either Kennebunk or Biddeford. We still have to deal with certain things like railroads and bridges
Yep.
and, you know, what can you or can't you do? And if it's part of the comp plan and part of the discussion, it's good to know those things.
Well, to tell them that, we have a town engineer that's, Woodard and Kerman, we've been working with, and they've done some preliminary estimates for us on this very issue.
But, and their preliminary indication to us that it might not be cost prohibitive for the town to build our own treatment plant. It's permitting
It's a permitting issue.
with DEP that makes it exponentially more expensive. You could do a drop-in sewer plant for $1 million.
No, it is just a.
But you're looking at another $800,000 or $900,000 in permitting.
But that changes, like, pretty much,
Each governorship,
Correct.
it changes.
Right now, it would be good.
right, that's what I
But that's just the plan itself.
And then you still have to have
Two-
the land to
two
put
or
the plan
three.
on.
Exactly.
Well, and then you have all the administrative costs, and you've got to have personnel to run it, and licensing it, relicensing it, you're gonna have system upgrades like anything, you've got to improve it. So it's a bit, we'd
No, I think
rather
there's somebody who's already
partner,
got the existing.
I think from a cost standpoint right now, we're looking at partnering with Kennebunk because you just got, there's so many variables that might just make it frightening
And-
and expensive.
In an ideal I guess, I won't necessarily say an ideal situation, but as just a hypothetical, if someone came in looking to put an assisted living community next to where Lux is, in that vacant piece of property,
Right.
that would be worth it for us to say, let's extend to here. That's the beginning of, because that development, where seasonal cottages is so far down and they're not even figuring in a sewer, they're building on site, that's a huge cost that we're going to bear. But if somebody were to come in closer to the Kennebunk line, that would entice Kennebunk to say, okay, well, if we're only gonna extend 3/4 of a mile right now, and we can handle that influx, that gives us additional impact fees, additional user fees, gives us more revenue to expand, and then we could do it incrementally.
Do we have any idea what it's costing them to put their on-site system in?
To upgrade the system they have.
No,
Just for the
this is-
Oh, no, that's
seasonal
what we were
cottage.
just talking about. I
The seasonal
can't
cottage.
remember, it was, possibly 1.2 million for the 4 different fields that they were putting in.
That's 1.2 million, and we're talking about roughly 2 million to put in a sewer line from the Kennebunk town line
all the way, right, all the way out.
Yeah.
all the way up to there.
Yeah.
So basically, if they would kick in that 1.2 million, we could do it for roughly 50 cents on the dollar.
Yeah.
It would reach him, it would reach him.
That is where the skepticism comes in regards to the TIF, and where the town, if the town were to bond that money up front and the project doesn't come to fruition,
Yeah.
that's the big negative of doing the TIF. And so that's kind
Okay,
of where we're.
but if we don't look at the tip,
Yep.
is there any other grant
Yeah.
money available
Yeah, there is.
that we could put toward, let's,
Well, we
round
can
figures,
vote
let's
on
say
it
the
in
whole thing
November.
is $2 million, and the town is gonna be responsible for $1 million. Is there any grant money that we could put toward our $1 million share and talk these guys into kicking their 1.2 million in, and let's get a sewer in?
The last EDI one that we had was 400,000.
What's an EDI one?
Economic Development and Infrastructure,
Okay.
400,000. That was the last set they did, that was the maximum amount. You have to come up with 20% match, cash. You know, it's cash.
So if they were to take that
So that's it.
$1.2 million and put it into a sewer system, they could probably come down to somewhere in this range.
Yeah.
And then,
We would take.
we could go from the rest further.
They'd much rather go with the sewer for obvious reasons. It's just maintenance, sort of more saleable to the potential
I don't have to do a
clients.
lot of blasting.
And that's a considerable.
They have to do blasting no matter what.
That's a considerable upfront cost for them, because they were planning on phasing in those systems.
Yeah.
They were going to do, with their 4
Yep.
disposal fields there, so that would, I don't know if they would have the capital to do that upfront. I mean, it's a discussion I
They
think
don't
definitely
have
have. I don't
capital.
believe that they have that capital upfront. And with a project like that,
TIF this.
what's that?
That's why they want to TIF this, because they don't have the capital up front.
Well, actually, that's not really the way they want to tip it.
Well, that's a
They're not
good
gonna-
reason.
No, what they want to, their investors want to make sure they get a return on the infrastructure. They want to make sure they're going to get their money back for the infrastructure. That's what they're really concerned most about. They
All right,
want-
so-
They want assurance.
Yes.
Some.
Yeah.
Go back to the issue.
You're losing control of your meeting here.
The issue is still sewer. It's a good, no, we're making full circle back. Sewer's feasible, sewer is doable, it's not a complete pipe dream, and it's something that frankly speaking would make this much more doable,
All right, so
without question. One of the reasons we're expanding it is because it gives us more area to put in community septic fields. Whereas little lots, we don't have much room at all. So we have bigger lots, so we have more chance, but if you can get sewer in here, suddenly this becomes a different game altogether, because some of these lots are bigger than the ones in Kennebunk. You have big lots.
and I guess that's sort of my point, you know, first of all, is putting in sewer the better approach to getting this whole thing to fly and really getting some tax base in town?
Yes.
And secondly, how do we go about pushing that issue if that's something that we think we should push? You know, is that something that this committee should be working on? Should the planning board be working on it? Should we be working on that together? Do we have to handcuff the selectmen to furniture until they say, yes, we're in favor of this? What do we do?
So much for town hall.
Well, unfortunately, it's not always an if you build it, they will come.
Right.
Well, no,
And so that's
right, that's another piece of it.
one of the, you know,
But
the
are we
cost-benefit
increasing-
analysis you have to do is do we get, will anyone bite on something like
What's the
that?
bang?
Right.
Well, you're probably more apt to get them to bite if you have sewer than if you don't.
Or the potential of it.
So I go back to my question, you know, where does this process start? I mean, even if we never get to the point where it happens, if this is something we think is a good idea, we obviously have to work in that direction. So what's step one?
I think step one would be to contact the guys who are doing the seasonal cottage thing and find out if they have any interest in participating in a sewer project. Because if by some chance they would say yes, you're halfway there.
Well, you also have to have,
Oh, yeah.
we also have to talk to the two other players. You either got Biddeford or Kennebunk.
And Kennebunk can't do it right as they sit right now. They have
And capacity.
long-term, long-range plans to move forward with expansion, but in the conversation I had with Barry and a conversation he had with Mike Bolduc, who's the superintendent, is right now they have capacity for about 150 more houses in their plan. And then they'll
Then they're
require
max.
a large, that's gonna be a large impact, you know, to the tune of tens of
So
millions of dollars.
then you look to Biddeford, which means that you need to bring that line through the bridge.
Well, at the same time, understanding that we've got the issue that Kennebunk has no desire to limit its growth based on its limitations of its sewer treatment plant. So they are going to make improvements. They're going to schedule and they're going to design them, because one of their favorite projects, West Kennebunk, can't happen without those improvements. And Barry's dead set on West Kennebunk becoming a new urban center. So that's his big plan. And they gotta have the capacity. 150 is not gonna be enough.
And Biddeford has the capacity, it's just,
Question is, do they wanna share? They've been stingy in the past
I've
about
been
capacity.
told that they would share.
Would they share?
Yeah.
That'd be great. But we have 3 times as far to go.
Then that's just from the manager, that's not coming from the council as to whether or not they agree with what the manager said, so.
And then do we do
I'd be
part,
looking for it.
do we do part and part? I mean, does Biddeford come part way, Kennebunk come the other part of the way? I don't know.
Well,
that's-
that does the whole thing then.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
all really.
in the BI district, my understanding is that the north side is unsuitable for a lot of development because it's all ledge and rock, and the south side is all wetland.
But west and east,
Thank you.
you confused me there.
That's all right, I'm confused
But
myself.
the west side is ledge, the east side
Side
is
is-
wetlands west.
Okay, so
High water too.
having sewer down that section
Yeah.
would make the east side have more potential as well. So in addition.
Get over the permit issues, and the wetlands filling issues.
Yeah, but, you know, more developable than it is now.
Yeah.
Okay,
And
so,
the same thing with the ledgy side. The ledgy side, you can deal with ledge. The problem is you can't deal with ledge and on-site septic.
right,
It makes
So
both
it's-
sides
makes-
very palatable.
yeah, so sewer down that whole length, even if it comes from both directions or one direction all the way through, makes that entire length of Route 1 a very viable area for commercial development, which is what we're looking for.
Right. And if we go with the concept of, as you know, that, you know, one of the things the planning has been really working on is looking at mining in that area as a way of facilitating the creation of business park or business sites, business pads, short-term mining, which is not permitted right now, would certainly automatically create an environment in which you can put that sewer line into the interior. You actually would blast your way into the interior as part of the mining process, which makes it more financially feasible to do this in the first place. That thereby increasing the potential for development there.
And a lot of that ledge area, there's nobody there to impact by the mining of it anyway.
That's right. It's
You got a few
very-
neighbors that are very concerned, but that's why you have a blast plan, and that's.
Right.
But I think it's important to know the steps, because otherwise you're just like, we're just spinning our wheels.
Right.
And we've been spinning them for 10 years or 20 years, and we're still gonna continue spinning them unless you get certain steps and move on.
We
And
need a battle plan.
and same thing with this agenda. We have to move forward.
No, and if I can just make one last point, is understanding that that sewer project is a 10 and 20-year plan. It's not a, next year this is gonna happen, but putting it in place now and having this conversation and writing it down makes it easier in the future to be able to actually do these things.
But I think you need to know, like, everybody says, yep, we should do it, but what is step one, and what is step two, and then to move from there, because I think, you know, I've been hearing sewer for,
Well, it's been in the comp plan.
last comp plan for.
Yeah, for how many
you know,
years,
how many
and it's
years,
gone
and
absolutely nowhere.
You know, and I mean, the water district is the one that brought the water pressure up. We have nothing, the town had no say in it as far as, other than they
Well, that came
permitted
from-
the,
yeah, it came from the camp-
pump
I mean,
station.
That was
Seasonal
from
cottages.
Seasonal cottages.
Seasonal
They paid
cottages,
for
right.
Right, but I mean, the town.
Didn't spend a penny.
The town officers, the town hall, you know, the,
Well, we negotiated that with
Yeah, that
We
was
helped
part of
broker
the
that.
planning board
Did
process.
actually help broker that deal, because they were gonna put it on site, and then they brokered a deal where they would put it down here and it would benefit the whole area. That was part of it goodwill.
So, but I think it's important to not just feel like you're spinning your wheels for,
I agree,
that you
and
need
it
to
is.
have a goal for, okay, step one is this, and when are we gonna meet this, step two is that, step three, I think it's, it's nice, but.
Well, the fact that we're.
I guess I'm getting frustrated as
I
a
don't blame
town person that's been here for 20 years, and I've been hearing the same thing over and over and over, and nobody is ever getting anywhere. So I guess I'm just getting, maybe it's just a bad night for me tonight. Very frustrated. I need chocolate.
But I think you have a really good point.
We need to move into that house.
I've been here for 20 years. We've been talking about a new town hall. The only thing we did get accomplished a fire station and stuff, but it's like it
That's a
takes.
sad story.
It is. It's taking forever. I feel like I'm just,
Well,
that nothing ever gets
What do you
done.
make
other
If
than
nobody
talking
puts a
about town
strategic
hall
plan in
on
place, if nobody puts a strategic plan in place, at least for 5 years or 10 years or whatever it is, with big picture things of saying, these are some things we need to accomplish. And, yeah, maybe they don't get done, but at least you've got some framework to move something forward from. I mean, look, what happened with our schools is a perfect example of that. Instead of somebody saying, hey, this building has been sinking for how long? But nobody put a plan in place to address it, instead of saying, oh, well, no, we need to spend $75 million to renovate everything in the district. Well, why isn't somebody saying, let's renovate this school and build the town hall and it together and pull money together and do
Well,
something? I mean,
unfortunately, I think what's been happening along those lines is the fact that we were monitoring, and it hasn't been sinking as drastically. It stopped sinking several years ago. They've been doing studies on it. But the point is, it's always, the capital improvements were always kind of like the back burner things, and then budget season comes along, and we don't want to bring the taxes up, so the capital improvements got cut, and the teachers' raises have to go through because that's contract, and this is contract, and that's contract. So when the town was doing it on its own, the capital improvement projects kind of just get pushed on the wayside because we don't want to bring the taxes up. So everything was always, well, we'll wait on that. We'll wait on the capital improvements. And unfortunately, same thing with a lot of other things in town. You get to the point where for a while the town trucks were all in disrepair, and we had to start, because capital improvements was ignored because you didn't want to raise the taxes.
But
So
sometimes you need to have a plan that says
Right.
taxes are
But
going to
it's-
go up.
Right, but
That's
it's not just that. When you're specifically looking at large buildings like schools and things like that, they're also impacted by the amount of funding that they get. And when the amount of funding that you're getting for the schools does not even match what the voters told the government to fund,
right.
and they keep cutting it, of course now they're finding more ways to spend that money, it's just ridiculous. And now they're making schools pay for you to go to private charter schools, then what happens is that the amount of money that the school has to spend on those repairs is less. So then they have to make a choice, okay, do I work on doing the school or do I lay off teachers? And that's something that these budget boards or these budget committees for the schools weigh all the time. How do they weigh making sure the kids get a good education and weigh the fact that the funding continually gets cut? Plus, they mandate you have to do this, this, and this, and this. So it's not that they don't want to repair the schools, it's not that they didn't. I mean, in some cases they didn't, but it's I hate to say it, it's a juggling act. And
Oh, no, I'm not disputing that at all, Diane. I'm not disputing that people don't have good intentions. My point is that, though, frequently, like what Simone just said, well, we just push the capital improvements to the side and say, well, we're not going to do that now because we don't want to raise anybody's taxes this year. Or instead of saying, well, for the next 10 years, people's taxes are going to have to go up this much to meet the demands. So it's not that taxes need to go up so much incrementally in one season, but we know that our taxes are going to go up over the course of the next 10 years about this much.
But
That
we
would
have-
be, I could deal with that, but I don't wanna deal with the fact, oh, my taxes are gonna go up $500 or $1,000 next year.
Right.
That
Yeah,
pisses
and-
me
and-
off, because I don't feel the budget boards or anybody, or even myself then as a town member, if we've got this, is doing a good job. So that's the thing that frustrates
And we
me, I
have over
guess.
the years started a lot of the capital improvement funds that, you see that some reserve amounts are being put aside for the ambulance and being put aside to replace the trucks, because otherwise you get socked with,
But we've been doing that, trying to keep taxes without going up.
But
I
I'm
mean, and the
just,
sewer's the same example of it. If you don't plan for it, if you don't say, we know it's gonna cost us money, sometime it's gonna cost us money. Well, then are we putting money aside for it? Are we taxing more because we believe that's the best thing for the ultimate economic development of the town?
I'd like to make a proposal. What if we look at this as a problem-solving exercise? The problem is, where we started was, we'd like to increase the commercial tax base in town so as to give some relief to the residential taxpayers. One of the potential steps in that direction is making changes such as DB1 and DB2, giving businesses more places to build, thus being able to attract larger businesses and improve that tax base. One of the ways that that might be expedited is to look at sewer up Route 1, whether it was the whole length or most of it. But for the sake of argument, let's say the whole length. So how do we approach that as the first step in solving the larger problem? And it may boil down to what you were just referring to, saying, okay, we've done our homework, here's the cost analysis. Taxpayers in town can expect their taxes to go up this amount for the next 10 years to fund this, nothing else. And at the end of the 10 years, those taxes go back down to whatever the current state of affairs is. And that the purpose of that tax increase is to allow for that development, which in turn will ultimately drive residential taxes down. So you have a game plan with an end point towards a larger goal, which, so temporarily taxes up, then taxes down if this all works. Granted, no guarantees, just because you build it, they won't necessarily come. But I think the sewer improves the odds tremendously.
Yes.
So that takes us right back to, and I absolutely agree with Simone. I mean, this implementation plan and the comp plan, although we went through it a couple of years and we said, okay, did we do this, did we do this, did we do this, did we do, but there were a bunch of things, including things like sewer, we said, well, no, we can't do that, and just kept going. But we haven't said, we still want to do that, let's make a step in that direction. And if the step in that direction is, in effect, making an agreement with the taxpayers, we're gonna start putting money aside until this is done, that's what we're proposing.
that could be, you could either start it off as a capital improvement account, and then later on bond the difference or whatever, but it's gotta start somehow.
Yes, it does.
You can't just keep saying, we would like it, it's never gonna get there, it's.
Well, I think the first thing is to get a study going, the feasibility and the cost estimate, to really hone this down. And frankly speaking, we're in current, who we've been working with, will help us go and get some grants to pay for this part of all of that stuff. So that's looking at what the real costs are, how it really can be financed, what the options are. So it gives the town a much better understanding of what you're facing. It's not a dream. It's the first step in making it a reality. Now, this board, this commission, decides that they're gonna say, we need sewer, and we're gonna push this issue. I guarantee the EDC is gonna jump right in there with you.
Absolutely.
And I'm pretty sure the planning board would agree, because they've been out on this land and know that the limitations really do hamper the goal of increasing non-residential property tax revenue. So anything that enhances that, I think they'll be in favor. If you got three boards right there who are saying, look, let's make this a priority. We have an engineering firm who will work with us to help get some grants to actually get this ball rolling. I think you're gonna have enough political clout there and enough momentum to make this no longer just, the goal on page F3,
And
but
that's-
something that's got some real meat to it that you can start building support.
And that's where you also have to get the residents on board who want this, because, you know, it'll help them, because if you don't get them on board,
No, they'll turn it down.
turn it
Exactly.
down,
But, you know,
you know.
But I think the selling point here is, unlike a lot of scenarios that we've heard discussed, you know, well, okay, so they're gonna put sewer on Route 1, what good does it do me, I live on the other side of town? The selling point here is that it does do me some good, because eventually it's gonna keep the residential taxes low.
It'll bring in,
Right.
commercial businesses to offset.
Right, so even though I don't live on Route 1 and I'm never gonna use that sewer, it is to my advantage to have that happen
Yeah.
because of the tax base situation, which will benefit everybody in
Or the
town.
potential for bringing in businesses that need it.
Right, yeah, they have the
Well,
potential
exactly.
to increase the tax base.
So this has a different sales pitch than, you know, something else. You know, if you just say, well, we're gonna put, you know, sidewalks on Route 1, I don't care.
Right.
But this, everybody would benefit from.
And it's more than, you kind of have to have a whole plan, so you kind of have to have it from beginning to end, which means you have to have the study, you'd have to have how much it costs, you'd have to have some idea as to, do you put it in increments, do you put it in all at once? And then, how do you go about, I hate to say it, having the people that are utilizing it pay the fee to use it?
Oh, sure, you have to.
Yeah, that's
You
what I
have to.
looked at.
It can't be supported by the taxpayers, it's a user base, user fee base.
They're not gonna pay for it, you don't hook up to them.
You don't hook up to
I
it.
mean, our
You usually
response-
have the option of hooking or
Right, but
not.
the problem
No,
is,
you don't.
if you put it in, we have the same issue
You have to.
where my father lived, where they brought the
Yep,
septic,
everybody.
they brought the
500
sewer
feet.
all the way out.
Oh, yeah.
The problem is, nobody wanted to hook up to it.
And the folks that are there today on Route 1, chances are, they already got an established business, chances are they probably won't hook up to it until they have problems with their septic system.
Now, could we get a clarification on that from
It's
Tad?
new.
Because I think Tad just said you have to
Yes.
hook up to it. So
Yeah.
what's the real story?
The real story is that most sewer districts, we work with the municipality, and there's an ordinance that's passed that says if you're in X number of feet of it, you're required to hook up to
And if you're-
it. Usually within a year's time.
And if your current system fails, you're
You have to-
required to look into it, you can't rebuild that system.
Yeah, you can't replace the existing system.
And this with town government form of, when we go to vote, that's gonna become a real issue, because people are not gonna wanna be forced to do that.
But that's what it's like to be in a sewer district.
Correct.
Because it's gonna be,
But they're
the
gonna say
district
they
is
were
going to
there
have
before the sewer
authority that the
district.
selectmen don't have. It's also, it's not regulated, yeah, it is regulated. It's not PUC.
Unfunded.
It is regulated by PCC. This goes into PUC. That's right. This is a PUC. Water's always is, sometimes sewers aren't, if they're municipal based, but this is in a municipal, this will be a sewer district.
It
It won't
comes
be
down to
PUC.
splitting hairs a lot of time, I'll tell you,
Yeah,
from my
it is.
days being a code officer in a town with a sewer, and you would have the site guy come in and say, the 501 feet, we're not hooking in. And the ordinance specifically states 500 feet or less, and they're required. I mean, they can appeal it, they can do whatever they want, but that ordinance is that ordinance, and you are going to tie in if your system fails.
Because the
That's how
difficulty
they
is you
make
get
their money.
bills for stores, so you're not only tying in,
Right,
but you're
no.
getting billed, you know.
Absolutely.
Right, if you look at what the cost is of those sewer bills versus installing a new septic system every 20 years.
Especially in a field on a constricted lot where you're,
Right.
you know,
Yeah, you
you
can't
can't
put it
just
back in the
rebuild
same
in
place.
place.
Yeah. So if you don't have a reserve field,
So your grandfather, I'm understanding this right, until it fails?
until it fails, if you're within that distance that they
I
require.
don't have a problem with that.
Yeah, but that's not what Tad said.
Well, you can-
Tad
you
said
can-
you have X amount a year or two at a time.
it depends on the district. There, you know,
Yeah,
there are
something
different.
big,
It's
there are
something that we
different
would have to make the
regulations.
rules, the
Yeah,
regulations.
We would, or it would be all negotiated?
With-
It would be
With-
negotiated with the sewer district.
So for a business that's, 100 feet, 50, 100 feet off the road, ballpark, how much is it to tie into the sewer system?
60 feet, 50 feet of, no, it's probably
No,
40
it's
feet.
more than
40
that, because
bucks.
you have to, they pay the whole cost of.
$800 in Kennebunk, downtown Kennebunk.
Is the impact fee.
Per,
That's the impact
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm saying, that, you know.
For business?
To tell Weirs and say, okay, you've gotta tie into the sewer system, how much is it gonna cost him to tie into this, never mind the
Well,
fees.
Weirs, probably 8-inch line, now I would do 6-inch line.
Right, and it depends on how many,
He's got a lot of work.
$60 a foot.
Yeah, I was gonna say $50 a foot.
6 inch? That's 2.5 inches when I quoted on that.
2.5
inch was like $800.
But that was just the impact.
That's the
Right.
fee. I don't
That's
care
how
about
much it's
the
gonna,
fee.
that's how much it's gonna cost him to actually build the line.
Right,
You're doing a ductile iron hookup.
Okay.
so
Yeah,
we're talking $5,000, $10,000, $15,000, $20,000?
No.
If they're 100 feet off the road, $5,000.
That's for a big user.
Right.
That's for a huge user.
So that's not a substantial cost for, you know, for the benefits that they get from,
You look at advertising a septic system, commercial septic system over, let's say, the life of the business, it's really advantageous. Plus, none of the maintenance costs, none of the fears of, failure at the wrong moment. And if you've got a high volume use, like a restaurant or something, it's a godsend.
Okay. Are we agreed that, I assume from the fact that you created the list, that you're going to begin to work on a feasibility study and cost estimates and all of that good stuff?
I will start working with his permission and to start working with Woodard and Kern, see if we can get some grant money to get this thing going. Go beyond where we are right now. They've already done some pro bono work for us already. See if we can get some,
Exactly what we can get out of Barry.
well, so far we've gotten a lot out of Barry, so we'll get more out of Barry. And he said he'll help us apply for the grants, so.
so the grants, would grants be something?
They'd be
that-
planning grants,
Okay, all right.
which are financed by
That's
DEP.
it.
Because DEP wants all of Maine to be on sewer. Very honestly put, they want all of Maine on sewer, and they will give you grants to help you plan to do that.
All right.
And
That
then,
sounds good.
and then DECD, if you got businesses involved, they want to help you build sewer to get sewer to businesses that create jobs. Because that makes them look good to
So
the
the
federal.
time is
investors.
right for this.
Time's always been right. Well, right now, because of our relationship with with Woodard and Kern, the time, because of that engineer, we've got a good relationship going, and the time is right.
Okay.
And we've got motivation by multiple boards in this town to start looking at doing something outside of the ordinary to jumpstart the economy in Arundel. Because remember, before this, there was a real attitude, at least this is my impression from being an outsider, there was a real attitude of let's not change anything. Let's keep it the way it is, because we like our little town to stay a little town, and we want it to not grow and to be rural and quaint and all the rest of that. But then there's this financial reality comes smacking on the door and says, in this day and age, you just can't be all residential and expect your taxes to stay low. You're not in Proctorsville, you're in Arundel, you're in the I-95 corridor, and your taxes are gonna just go up. And it's a question of how much do you want to bear as a homeowner.
And the USDA rural development is also willing to help out.
Yep.
One of the things I was checking out.
Yep. Good man.
Okay. Well,
I know some of those guys, right out there. Yeah, I know some of the rural water guys too, they might jump in on some of this.
at this point, I would like to flush this topic and move on to B, which I think probably we're going to end for the night. I want to explain the reason for B, which is to discuss the process for working with the EDC and the planning board regarding the results of the Chesapeake Group report, otherwise known as the branding study. I went to the last EDC meeting simply because I had no idea what was going on, and I said, maybe I should go to a meeting and find out what's going on. So I sat in and listened to what they were working with in terms of their discussion of the report and the fact that it was about to be presented. And in the course of that discussion, I was able to, at the end of the meeting, and in response to some questions from them, kind of let them know what the comprehensive plan committee was doing and was all about. And one of the things that occurred to me, and I think John will probably back me up on this, is that we are once again indulging in government by vacuum. The EDC really doesn't know what we're doing. We didn't necessarily know what they were doing. The planning board is somewhere in the middle, and the more opportunity we have for either joint meetings where we're trying to accomplish a task, like, get some people in from the neighborhoods and talk about specific issues, or even if it's a matter of some of us making an effort to go to the other's meetings so that we understand what the other group is doing, that's going to make this process run a little bit smoother and more cohesively, as evidenced by that last discussion. Obviously, the EDC would support that approach because they want to see the opportunity for that economic development. If we come up with a mad plan for sewer and the planning board can't buy into it for some reason, that's going to be a problem. So we need to be communicating with them. At this point, the EDC has submitted a copy of the Chesapeake Group report to the selectmen as of last night. And my understanding last night was that we are going to get a copy as well to look through. So that as the EDC starts to make recommendations based upon that report, some of those recommendations are logically going to fall under our umbrella, because we would look at the recommendation and say, okay, how do we incorporate that into some of the language that we would put in the comp plan to make that something that the planning board can then implement and propose to the town as an ordinance? So it's almost a circular kind of thing, because some of the things that we may come up with, perhaps tonight's discussion as an example, goes back to the EDC and they say, oh, well, there's a push to do this, or the comp plan has suggested this, is this something we want to consider? So that communication piece, I think, is really important. And that was the reason for it on the agenda, that I found, going to the EDC meeting and just listening to what they were doing and how they were approaching things to be very enlightening. And I had a much better feel for what, they're trying to do. And especially in response to the fact that some of them had attended our previous meeting, I said, all right, turn them out as fair play. Let me go find out what they're up to and what they're trying to accomplish, so that maybe we can meld and kind of help. So that was that piece.
Yeah, I think the EDC will be very pleased to find out that this committee is in favor of that sewer line project. Even if it's only done piecemeal, bit by bit, over a period of several years, I think the feeling of the EDC is that would make a big difference in trying to get some development going, on the route. That's certainly my opinion anyway, for what it's worth. Todd did post 3 documents on the internet today, which consist of the Chesapeake Group's final report, their technical analysis, and a letter of transmissions that was sent from the EDC to the selectmen with these documents. The letter pretty much outlines concerns that the EDC had with the report from Chesapeake Group. So I just wanted to make you all aware of the fact that those documents are available online, even if you don't have your own copy. If you just go to the home page, there's a shortcut there in bright red letters. If you click on that, it will take you to the 3 documents.
And it's in color.
And it's in color, yeah.
But what you're getting
only going to get is black and white.
Right, and should you want that paper copy prior to the next comp plan meeting, I will have them at town hall for you. If you don't want to read it online, just stop by. You won't want to print them at home. The biggest
The technical analysis is about 100 pages.
Yeah.
I think the report is about 60 pages.
Yeah,
and
so you won't want to
3
print
pages
them
in
yourself.
But there's a great cast of characters, the plot's not bad.
So I will have copies for all of you at the next meeting. If you're by town hall, just ask. I'll have them behind the counter so we can give those out to you. And if you're chomping at the bit, go to the website and read them in their full color glory.
I'll make you ones for myself.
I'm sorry, when will you have those copies?
I can have them
Town
right
hall?
first thing in the morning.
Okay.
Wow.
Meeting about 10. Meeting, raising your, okay, hang on, Ray, I'm gonna make that copy for you.
I work tomorrow.
There might be a
Thursday.
10-minute lag time there.
He's gonna go to a desk, print.
Click. Hang on, Melvin.
Call that on demand.
So how about those Broncos?
JIT, just in time.
Yes.
JITP, just in time printing.
Okay, Does anybody else have any, comments or questions about the three groups coordinating?
Okay.
Okay.
How do you wanna do that?
Well, that's a really good question. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, it's an open invitation to any, planning board member or EDC member, whoever wants to show up to our meetings and become part of the discussion, because I think that's really helpful. Past experience has shown me that planning board members have a reluctance to show up anywhere except planning board meetings, and I understand that fully. I think as issues come up where it makes sense to have a joint meeting, they should be, for the most part, 3 committee joint meetings, and, get as many of us at those as possible. And then, as I said, I will make an effort as time permits to get to EDC meetings that, as I look at the agenda, it looks like there's something that is going to be significant for us. But, certainly we have the advantage of having John as a direct liaison, so.
Perhaps when we get down to the question of how does some of those proposals fit into the comp plan that we're doing here, that might be a good joint meeting opportunity.
Yeah.
That time, in fact, a three board meeting might be appropriate in that. Where we're gonna find enough desks and chairs to put everybody is another issue.
We can improvise, but I think that's beneficial for a number of reasons. First of all, I think it's more efficient because that way you're having one meeting and everybody gets to participate at once. And you also have a better, at the end of it, clarity in terms of what everybody thinks, and you come up with a better product, as opposed to having one group come up with what they think is a wonderful idea, and having 2 other groups say, nah, not so much. And then you're back to the drawing board, so you can sort out all that stuff all together as a group. And I also think it gives us a better sampling of the town, so that if we're going to, something comes up and we're all, just so starstruck with the idea that we get to town meeting and somebody says, well, that's really stupid. With a larger group, you're likely to run into that comment sooner, and somebody will tell you that, and then you can, figure out the issues. So.
The only comment that I make on that is for more people.
The more bullshit.
I don't have any further do I. Well, we just,
Had a different word in
we
mind,
need to
John.
moderate it, a little bit.
Unfortunately, we're just all such a easy to get along with group, and we love to chat. But yes, no, I agree with you. But in the past, when the comp plan and the planning board have had joint meetings, we, pretty much kept to the topic at hand without too much nonsense. So, we did receive a compliment the other night that you may not be aware of from one of the gentlemen in the audience from the joint meeting. Because he went up to John and said that, my husband, and said that he was extremely pleased with the meeting because it was so informal and polite. And apparently because of his job, he is in a lot of meetings in a lot of different towns, and apparently they're nothing like us. So he was very impressed.
Well, the buck changed.
Yes.
When we did a lot of the joint meetings when we were doing the seasonal cottages, I mean, we did a lot of planning board meetings when that was going on, and that went fairly smooth.
Oh, it goes well,
Yeah, I just, now you're adding nothing against the economic, just you're adding more people, whether it's the economic committee, whether it's the selectmen, whether it's, you start putting in, what are we here, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10,
Yeah, we're-
12 people, now you got 15, 16, and then you add, you're 20, 30 people, it's like it gets going on and on and on, and we haven't even got to call a war yet, so.
We will have to stay focused. I have a feeling that item C is going to be a long discussion and it's 9 o'clock, so since we that's the permanent agenda item that we will keep moving along until we
So it'll be
eventually
first
get
on
to
the
it.
next agenda, so we can get it off out of the blocks.
Sure.
What to do with it? Okay.
Is there, before just throwing it on the agenda like that, are there any pros or cons that maybe we should be aware of historic districts before we even discuss this? I mean, is there, you know what I mean? Is there
I can no attention to him.
No,
well,
just,
a memo, it's just kind of like outlining pros and cons of a historic.
Yes, we'll have a memo for you.
Because I have no idea, just because you designate it, somebody could absolutely hate it because then they can't paint a house a certain color or.
That's all I saw. I
that's
saw
all.
these huge flags.
Yeah, so I'd like to know the pros and cons of, what are the pros of designating a historic district and what are the cons of it, and then we can discuss it better.
And what would the limitations be, and,
Yeah.
Well, that's,
We
that's
said
the in
that,
the
right?
weeds, that's a in the weeds thing. I mean, because
Because
it's the details, it's.
If you want to be a designated historic district for the Bureau of Parks and Lands, that's one thing, and if you
Yeah.
want a utilitarian historic district that's going to,
Right, and see, I have no concept of either one of those.
We have those. It can
Any of
go to
those.
all sorts of.
Well,
Right.
could you get us some
Yes.
background information prior to the next
Oh,
meeting?
my.
I know you're not doing anything between 1 and 3 a.m. most days, so.
No, I will do that. It would actually help. It would
Yeah.
help.
Maybe
Would
Wings
facilitate
Place or
rather than
historic.
us just kind of throwing it up in the air.
Oh, I was gonna make a presentation, if that's okay. If you can have some
Zimmer goes
advanced
down to a
information.
rental.
that would-
I've seen emails from him at 11 o'clock at night, so what's a month and a half?
It's all OT.
I think we should put the back on, so.
I was just thinking that, Diane. I was just thinking.
I can bring that up next budget board meeting.
I mean, there should be certain,
The other
certain
thing is
positions that
that-
are always salary, that's why mine is salary.
Technical document, and the other one is the.
You know, I pay my OT.
The report, and this is the technical data that.
Okay, any more discussion on that item C that we're gonna put first on the next agenda?
No.
All right, the next meeting date, technically it should be next Tuesday, which is February 4th. I will not be available, which doesn't mean you can't have a meeting, but I just wanna let you know.
Yes, it does. Nice, Rich.
Well, the 11th, is that EDC, still the second
11th
Tuesday?
will be,
Yes.
Okay, so maybe if we could push it to the 18th without that being a major, I would give Tad extra time to do all that background information on historic districts.
That's, is that vacation? No, it's not vacation.
Yes,
Yes, it is, I won't be around, I'll be
Vacation
gone,
week.
It is vacation.
vacation week.
And then we can't get into school.
The 18th is a selected meeting too. Sorry.
That's all right.
Because there's a holiday on.
That takes us,
Yeah,
Monday's a holiday.
yeah,
Oh, the
that takes us to the
I won't be at that
25th,
18th meeting.
so it would be a month from today.
You won't be there?
Yeah, not.
So Feb. 25th. Winter will be
Yeah,
over,
the
right?
25th,
Yes, it will be.
selectmen,
Coming in
everybody
short.
else on the 26th.
Oh, that's right.
So we're talking about the 25th?
Oh, yeah.
Is that, when is the joint
Tuesday
You'll
meeting?
have to hire in the end.
Yes.
I think that will be another EDC meeting.
As I say, in the joint meeting with all the boards and Kenny Bunkin, is that the 26th?
26th,
26th.
on a Wednesday.
Can we meet another day, or does it have to be on
Right, that's what
I'm
I,
counting Mondays in my head.
Tuesday, the Wednesday, or?
The 18th is not a select.
Thursday will be the
By-
planning board
by,
historical
fee,
society.
increase the number of
17th.
Wednesday's a possibility.
Wednesday?
That's somewhat, that's not a holiday.
can we pop it ahead in the month instead of all the way to the end?
Well, yeah, I would just assume not wait all.
We would have a meeting on the 17th.
Maybe on the
No,
19th.
24th. I
That's
am,
still vacation week.
February starts on a Saturday.
What about the 12th?
Is a Wednesday?
So the 2nd is the
How about the
10th,
12th?
and then the 24th, so we won't hit.
I'm all right.
All right.
It's a Wednesday,
How about the
right?
12th, guys?
Wednesday, the 12th?
Wednesday the 12th. Hold
Are there any
So that gives
things-
you Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday meetings that week then. Just
on. Just
saying.
give me a shot.
I'll bring you a
Go
sandwich.
home.
It works for me.
I know it works for you. So we're looking at the 7th, say again?
12th.
The 12th.
Wednesday, the 12th.
12th,
I know we
13th.
go to state glass class, they
11th,
were released,
12th.
so that's one more.
Okay, so cross all that out. February 12th is the next
And we're,
meeting.
that's right.
7 o'clock,
Yeah.
okay. 13th is a planning board, and the 11th is EDC, right?
Yes.
11.
No.
So, why don't you guys just make it a week? Come on over to the EDC and then
Yeah.
we'll have your meeting, then you can come to the planning board. That'll be great. We'll have barbecue.
You hungry, Cat?
I didn't have
You
dinner.
talking about barbecue tonight?
I didn't have dinner. So,
Is anybody interested in adjourning?
I'll make a motion with them.
I'll second that.
Come on.
All those in favor, except for Dan? Check